Hello everyone, my name is Jeanette Southwood. My pronouns are she, her, elle. I am the Executive Vice President, Corporate Affairs and Strategic Partnerships at Engineers Canada, and I'm an engineer. I'm very happy to welcome you to today's webinar, Planning a National Engineering Month Event 101. As part of our commitment to incorporating Indigenous ways of being and ways of knowing into the engineering profession, I would like to begin today's webinar by acknowledging the Indigenous peoples of all the lands that we are on today. While we meet today on a virtual platform, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the importance of the lands which we each call home. We do this to reaffirm our commitment and responsibility in improving relationships between nations and to improving our own understanding of local Indigenous peoples and their cultures. At Engineers Canada, we believe that it is important to personalize our land acknowledgement. I myself am an immigrant and a settler on these lands. From coast to coast to coast, we acknowledge the ancestral and unceded territory of all the Inuit, Métis, and First Nations people that call this land home. Please join me in a moment of reflection to acknowledge the effect of residential schools and colonialism on Indigenous families and communities, and to consider how we are and can each, in our own way, try to move forward in a spirit of reconciliation and collaboration. On behalf of Engineers Canada, I want to thank you for joining us for this webinar today. Whether you're an engineer, an educator, or work in a STEM-based NGO or the engineering profession, your dedication to inspiring the next generation is truly appreciated. Engineers Canada is the national association of the provincial and territorial engineering regulators who license the more than 330,000 members of the engineering profession in Canada. National Engineering Month is one of Engineers Canada's most important outreach initiatives. Every March, engineers and engineering students from across the country enter classrooms, community spaces, workplaces, and online platforms to showcase how engineering shapes our world and our daily lives. These events help inform young people about engineering and its possibilities. Planning a successful National Engineering Month event takes creativity, coordination, and a clear purpose. Today's webinar will explore ways to support you in that work through discussions on how to design and deliver engaging NEM events. We'll hear from our panelists, Christopher Davis, Daryl Marsh, Nordia Brown, Rebecca White, and Matt Weisenfeld. This group brings a breadth of knowledge, experience, and unique perspectives on how to speak with kids about the E in STEM, event ideas, and why National Engineering Month matters. I want to take a moment to thank all of you for your investment in engineering outreach. Your efforts help raise awareness of what engineers do and encourage youth from all walks of life to see themselves in engineering. We're excited about the discussions to come and hope you leave today with practical tools, fresh ideas, and enthusiasm for National Engineering Month. Thank you once again for being here. I'll turn the floor over to my colleague, Eileen Shomey, Engineers Canada's Associate Outreach and Belonging, to kick things off. Over to you, Eileen.
Hello and welcome everyone. We're very glad that you're able to join us today for a very important and exciting conversation all around how to plan a National Engineering Month event successfully. Today, we have a wonderful lineup of speakers that are each going to share insights, tips, tricks, and more on how to host a National Engineering Month event. But before that, please note, we do have a brief question and answer segment at the end of the webinar. So feel free to utilize the Q&A function within Zoom to submit any questions you may have for our speakers today. Before diving into today's main content, some brief notes on what National Engineering Month is for context setting. National Engineering Month, also called NEM, is Canada's annual nationwide celebration of engineering. Last year, we announced a new theme, Engineers Open Doors. The previous theme before this was There's a Place for You in Engineering. The new theme, Engineers Open Doors, really highlights how engineers open doors to new futures and possibilities. It also highlights the innovation, passion, and commitment that engineers bring, as well as their positive contributions to society at large. A bit about NEM. It takes place every March across Canada, so it is a national event. It also showcases engineering's contribution to society. We know that engineers play a very critical role in society, And so this is a really great opportunity for us to bring awareness to that and spotlight how engineers do this. Lastly, NEM is a great opportunity to engage the public, educators, and future engineers. It definitely focuses on different groups within the engineering ecosystem. So that includes K-12, youth, adults, professional engineers, and the like. And now, why NEM matters. Engineering plays a critical role in shaping communities' infrastructure and quality of life, yet its impact is often unseen. So why should you host an NEM event or consider hosting one? First, it's a great opportunity to increase public awareness of engineering, strengthen the trust and credibility in the profession. So this is a great chance for engineers to show what they do, but also really reflect or promote that trust in terms of why it is engineers can be trusted to do what they do. Next, hosting a NEM event helps inspire youth to explore engineering pathways. We know that engineering has a very broad range in terms of possibilities that exist and different fields that folks could get into. And so this is a chance to really inspire youth to consider these different pathways. Next, for any employers on the call, National Engineering Month is a great way to boost employee morale. It's a chance to celebrate your engineering talent within your organization and within industry. Lastly, NEM is a great opportunity to align national efforts towards a stronger, more inclusive profession. Events for NEM could be virtual or in person, and our speakers will shortly get into the fine details of what this looks like, as well as examples of what practical NEM events could look like. Over to you, Rebecca.
Thank you, Eileen. Hi, everyone. Thank you all so much for being here, and thanks again to Engineers Canada for bringing this fantastic group together. For my few minutes today, I wanted to help out Eileen a little bit more and set the tone a bit more and dig into that context for why National Engineering Month matters. It's really more than a celebration. I like to think of it as a lever for impact. At its core, this is really about putting the E back in STEM and making sure engineering is visible, understandable, and really accessible to everyone. As Eileen mentioned, the idea connects directly to this year's theme, Engineers Open Doors, because visibility in particular is often the very first door that needs to be opened. For me, why do I care about the E in STEM? So briefly, I'm the CEO of Engineers of Tomorrow. I'm also a founding member of the Forward Engineering Collective. And so my work sits right at the intersection of K-12 education, the engineering profession, and equity. So through classroom programs, our volunteers, teachers, partners across the country, I get to see every single day how early exposure really shapes who sees themselves as an engineer, but maybe more importantly, who doesn't. And so that lived experience is really what brings me to this conversation. So where is the E in STEM? Do you mind advancing to the next slide, Eileen? Thank you. This is a really maybe deceptively simple question. We know that engineering is often underrepresented, undernamed, kind of effectively invisible if you look at the K-12 education, or maybe think back to your time in your K-12 educational journey. So even though there's lots and lots of great STEM programming happening, engineering is rarely explicitly identified by name or even practice. I see it pretty often. Students are doing engineering, but they're not being told that that's what it is. So most of you on the call will appreciate, some of the science, the research behind it. So if you can advance to the next slide, Eileen, here's what the research tells us. Engineers Canada explored this "Where is the E in STEM" in a report that they published a few years ago. And I mean, the findings really did stand out. So again, Eileen mentioned some of these things already, but first, engineering is underrepresented, undernamed. Educators sometimes just lack confidence, the language around engineering to talk about it authentically in front of their students. And then third, engineering is often introduced too late, if it's introduced at all. I hear from people all the time about how, oh, I wish I had have known. And then finally, misconceptions about engineering are so stubborn and so persistent. And here's the thing, this really, really matters to understand all this. If you can advance to the next slide, please, Eileen. This matters because when engineering is invisible, well, then so are engineers. And I mean, it's pretty common, right? Students don't pursue what they can't see or name or really understand. We know what those, familiar misconceptions are. You have to be crazy good at math. Engineering's only about one thing. Usually, whenever I ask students, they're like, "Oh, it's building bridges, right?" And so when we think about all these things and the way that this system is set up right now, then of course the results we're getting are probably pretty predictable. Underrepresentation is going to deepen, particularly for girls, racialized youth, students from lower income communities, because this isn't about interest. It's about access, language, and visibility. And so when we think about it in that way, I'll just get you to advance to the next slide, Eileen. That's where the Forward Engineering Collective comes in. So the collective brings together organizations from across Canada to align around shared known barriers. So instead of each of us trying to solve these same problems in isolation, we can now work together. The barriers, those known barriers I mentioned, they're things like the language, the early exposure, representation, that educator confidence piece, and just the fragmentation in the ecosystem. And so obviously key idea here is that no single program or single event is going to fix this, because let's be honest, we would have done that already. But when things are aligned, that's when we can see progress and have progress happening. All right, next slide, please, Eileen. So let me kind of bring that back all together for you. Where does NEM fit into all this? Well, in my humble opinion, this is exactly where National Engineering Month is a powerful lever, because it gives us this sort of national moment to say the word engineering, say it clearly and confidently, right? That visibility and awareness piece, to showcase what is it that engineers really do, right? We know it's not just building bridges. Reach students early before pathways start to narrow, and then align maybe some of the local efforts, some of the things that you on the call today are thinking about doing, align those with this shared national narrative. It's really this visibility at scale. Next slide, please, Eileen. And so obviously NEM is bigger than one single event, of course. We're so excited to have all of you here today. And so when you participate in NEM, you're doing so much more than running that single activity. You're reinforcing that public trust and professional identity that Eileen talked about. You're amplifying through national alignment. And then you're also helping to normalize engineering as human and creative and socially relevant. And then you're also contributing, even if it's in a small way, to this long-term system change. So that's why it's so excited to have you participating here today. And if you can go to the next slide. Oh, I think you're on that slide. Stay there, Eileen. So from why to how, of course, we're all geared up to join this movement, but how do we do that? Well, that's where I'm going to lean on our awesome next speakers to share all the practical event ideas, maybe lessons learned, thinking about budgets and cost-effective approaches. So, really listen in, hear what they have to say, and hopefully can take a few things away from that. And if you do want to learn more about any of the things I mentioned today, so the Forward Engineering Collective in particular, You can visit floredaengineeringcollective.ca. And then I just wanted to also highlight there's some awesome youth-focused resources at exploreengineering.ca. So thank you again. And with that, I will hand it over to the next speakers.
Thank you very much. My name is Daryl Marsh. I'm currently the 911 Senior Manager of IT Systems at the Department of Nova Scotia Emergency Management Office. One of the main projects I'm working on right now is our next generation system. But what I'm here to talk about today is National Engineering Month. And I've been a volunteer with National Engineering Month for about 10 years now. And actually, Chris, my vice chair, he was the one who kind of recruited me into it. So I want to thank him for that as well. Chris, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, certainly. My name is Chris Davis. I'm the manager of right-of-way services with Halifax Regional Municipality, where I manage a team of technical staff. We do reviews for permit applications for on-street construction activities and all that sort of stuff within the Halifax region. So I've been a volunteer with National Engineering Month Committee at Engineers Nova Scotia in a variety of roles since about 2004. And currently I'm the vice chair of the committee. So I will ask for the next slide, please. For our planning of National Engineering Month at Engineers Nova Scotia, we really focus on, first and foremost, who are we organizing events for and why? So we really have categorized three pillars or three main groups of people that we want to attract with our calendar of events for National Engineering Month. So first and foremost, it is our month, so we want to do things for our membership. This can be social events to allow people to meet other engineers and just get together in a kind of more social setting. It can also be to provide a platform for engineers to showcase their projects to other engineers who might be interested. And just provide that opportunity for people to learn from other engineers. And it can also be in a more kind of formal way to try to provide platforms and opportunities for people to participate in webinars and get some more professional development hours and learn a little bit more about what the association is doing for them. For students, we want to engage with students at all different stages, right? So this can be through K to 12, kindergarten through grade 12. And we also try to include some events for undergraduates as well. So the importance of speaking to students in the K to 12 environment is really to spark an interest in engineering at a young age and make sure that students are aware while they're picking courses through high school and maybe selecting majors as they want to go to apply to university. Know that engineering is an option for them. And we also want to make sure that we're putting items in our calendar to engage and provide them an opportunity to meet up with engineers in training and professionals to learn about their career after university. And finally, last but not least, we want to also engage with the public directly. So we're trying to include items in our calendar that will invite the public to learn about the engineering that's happening in their own backyard and maybe engage with the youth, through these public engagement processes. If parents are bringing their children, gives them an opportunity to engage and get interested in engineering as well through some of our public-facing activities. So from there, I'll ask for the next slide, and I'll pass it over to Daryl.
Well, sure. Well, some of the opportunities for engineers to share our knowledge and experience, this will be for our membership. So we have Spotlight on Local Innovation, and it's an exciting event to celebrate engineering and highlight groundbreaking projects and research led by women engineers in Nova Scotia. There's also PD webinars to help with professional development. And I'll ask Chris to talk a bit about the social events.
Yeah, so we do host a number of social events, including sweat and sip spin classes. I do want to hone in a little bit on the curling bonspiel that we do, because that's been a massive success over the last decade or so here in Nova Scotia. So we host a mini bonspiel. It's really condensed down to one day, and it's a great opportunity for small teams of friends and coworkers to get together for friendly competition. This has kind of really struck that sweet spot between a sporting event, competition, and social networking. So it's really been successful in ticking a number of boxes for us. And we've seen a great mix of both repeat participants as well as new folks who join existing teams. So it's been a really great event year over year. We're even moving to a different curling club this year, which may provide us an opportunity to grow the event a little bit because there are more sheets available if we happen to sell out early. So that's really a little bit about the curling event, and I just kind of wanted to highlight those particular items. Daryl, I'll pass it back over to you to speak about those.
Yeah, I'd like to talk about the trivia just for one quick second, just a bit of nostalgia with the trivia. So there are actually being hosted by engineers at the university bar, and it's kind of a nice nostalgia idea, and I hope that other members feel the same way about that. But looking at some other ideas, informing membership of the role of the regulators. So I know Chris has worked on the Iron Ring, if you'd like to speak more about that.
Yeah, so although the ritual of the calling of the engineer is not directly affiliated with universities or provincial engineering associations, Engineers Nova Scotia has partnered with the Wardens of Camp 7 for about the last 20 years to sponsor a lunch for the ring candidates before the ceremony starts. So this has been a great opportunity for the president, vice president, and councillors of Engineers Nova Scotia to address undergraduate students before they enter the workforce, to underscore the importance of self-regulation, mentorship, and the path to licensure. So it's not obviously the main theme of the day. Obviously, the ring candidates are far more excited to go through the obligation ceremony and get their iron rings. But it is a great touch point for the association to inform students who are about to be eligible to register as engineers in training about the role of the regulator.
Okay. And we also have town hall meetings, but that information is available online for more information. So looking at the next idea, we talked a bit about K-12 and undergraduates. So the idea here is to make sure that we cover all the different age groups. So again, we have outreach to the schools. We have a pizza pie day, which is something I've kind of enjoyed last year. It was a good chance to meet with some of the students, engineering students at the associate universities. Spoke about the trivia, but it's also for the undergrads as well as the membership. But we have some past events. Chris worked on the egg drops in the past, and we are looking at a new event this year, these Dalhousie University Lab Tours, to try to cover the high school age group within the spring break. So I know that we just want to kind of skip ahead a little bit and talk about the public engineering event. And one of the advantages to this event, it's a signature event, and we had over 260 attendees last year. Some of the events include like Stomp Rocket competitions, but we have display tables featuring community engineering projects and interactive STEM-based activities. And what I want to kind of focus on here is it was Chris's idea to introduce a passport idea to boost engagement. And I'd like to invite Chris to speak more about that for us.
Yeah, so we've been hosting this public engineering day at the Central Library for a number of years. And, it's been a really fantastic way for us to showcase engineering to the general public. But we wanted to take it one step further and really encourage all of the members of the public who are engaging, the families that were there with the kids, to really go around and visit every one of those tables, because all of the people who have been participating year over year at these tables have really great engineering projects they've been working on. And we wanted to make sure that they got the exposure. So one way that we thought to engage with the public a little bit more directly is to have little mini engineering activities that they could do at each table. So, you can see some of the photos here of, some of the young participants here engaging in a little design game at each one of these tables, and each table had something a little bit more unique to their particular kind of a category of what it was they were bringing to the event. But the other thing that we did is we gave everyone a little passport, so a postcard sized piece of paper or a cardstock on the way in, and each table that you visited, you got a little sticker. Now, when you put your sticker in the right spot on the passport, you would actually spell out the theme of National Engineering Month, Engineers Open Doors. So by encouraging everyone to visit every table to get their full slate of stickers, it really encouraged everyone to go around and see everything that was available there. And then, of course, once you got your passport filled, you could turn it into us at the front and we would put your name into a draw for a prize at the end. So it was a really great way to encourage everyone to go around and see everything that was available to them at the library and participate in all of the little mini games and really learn a lot about all of the different engineering groups that were present at the library that day.
Yeah, it was very exciting to see that level of engagement. It was really excellent. Thank you so much. We're getting kind of low on time, but I just wanted to cover sort of some lessons learned. I'm just trying to see if I can get the slide to advance. So the idea of what worked well, as Chris said, curling, very popular event, public library event went very well, but also some thought about why it worked well. We had a lot of volunteers. We had engineering students come in and help out with different displays. We also had Halifax Library support, so that worked very well. Chris spoke about the engagement with the passport. But there was some ideas about what maybe didn't work, and we had to sort of leave some events behind as time went on. And there's also been consideration of holding events over spring break. It's just something to think about where you might have a different audience. So the high school event, the Dow Lab, that's something we want to look at March break because the students will be off, but the universities will be in. So that can help out. Chris, anything to add for lessons learned before we finish up?
Yeah, just quickly about what we do when we realize we have to remove an event from our calendar, right? So we have a number of events that were oftentimes successful. Sometimes we had to remove them for lack of participation. The reason to remove an event varies, for many reasons. But if you delete an event from your calendar, we often refer back to those three pillars that I mentioned off the top. So if we have to remove an event from our calendar, and we know that it was targeting a certain group or it was a specific type of theme activity, example, when we removed our Gearhead 1/10th marathon, that was kind of a sporting event with a bit of a social aspect to it. We wanted to replace it with something that filled those same criteria. So that's when the curling bonspiel started. So, if you're going to delete an event, be mindful of which audience and what targets you may be deleting from your calendar, and try and think of a new activity that could fulfill those goals and meet the needs of that particular audience with a new event.
Great. Well, thanks very much for the insight into that. And if there's any questions, I'll be at the end and hand it over to the next presenter. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Hopefully you can hear me okay. My name is Nordia Brown, and I am the Director of Programs for BEC. That would be the Black Engineers of Canada. Yeah, thank you. Couldn't advance the slide. So yeah, I'll be approaching my section here just a little bit different. I'll be talking to you specifically around the steps that you should be following if you're trying to put on an event for not only National Engineering Month, but really for any type of event that you would want to put on around the context of engineering. And the specific event that I'll be speaking to kind of provide context would be a speed mentoring and roundtable event that we actually were able to complete. Next slide, please. So if you're looking at it in terms of the vision and what our objectives were, I mean, ultimately what we were trying to do was celebrate engineering in Canada and see how many different types of people we can reach out to with this event. So it's not only about just, your engineers who've been working in industry for some time, maybe they just want to connect with other engineers. You spend a lot of time connecting with, say, student engineers. So these are kids that are in university. They're just trying to navigate, how do I get through school? Okay, I'm about to graduate. I have this resume. What do I do? I'm in an interview. What questions do I ask? Really, and anything around any guidance that you could provide for that is where we would kind of target our conversations. And then we also have engineers who are new to the country. So they could be people who are coming in from overseas. They have a lot of years of experience working as an engineer, but There's just issues with having to break into that field here in Canada. We were there to inspire and support all of these emerging engineers. I mean, it was good for them to actually sit down with people who were able to kind of work through and get through here in Canada and as an engineer. And then in terms of our roundtable discussion, we spoke about basically, just generally how to go about getting a job in Canada, but also looking at AI, like what are the impacts? How are we seeing it in the workplace? Ultimately, the hope would be that it would strengthen the community and it would also build a set of professional networks, people that you could eventually reach out to later on as you move on through your career. Next slide, please. So the event format was very simple. We took a speed mentoring session. So these are sessions that we would typically have every 2 months, and we made it an in-person session. But what we also added onto it would be a couple of roundtable discussions. One was around just, generally speaking, how do you go about getting a job? And then, as I mentioned before, there was a discussion around AI, how it's impacting us as engineers in the in out in industry. And then, of course, there would be your networking and your wrap up. Next slide, please. So when I mentioned, I would really be talking about the steps that you're following. These are really the steps that anybody should be following when they're planning any event, not just for National Engineering Month, but for any type of event. So for this particular event that we had, there was an event application process. And as it turns out, it was actually through Engineers Canada, where we had to present basically just a summary, a synopsis of what we intended to do for this event. And upon approval, you were able to gain assistance to help with putting on the successful event. So if you do have opportunity to sign up with any type of organization that is willing to donate funds or supports for events, you should definitely go ahead and you should do that. Next thing after that you need to do is build out your team. So your team of people, you're going to need somebody who's going to lead. You'll probably need somebody who's going to be doing all of the planning, who's going to be determining all of your budgets. Just you're going to need a set of people who you can trust, who would be able to complete all of the tasks that you need to complete in order to make sure that you're putting on a successful event. After that, and it's probably the most important thing that you need to do when you're talking about an in-person event, is securing your venue and figuring out a date. You have to make sure that the venue is able to handle the number of people that you expect to have in attendance for the in-person event. And of course, you have to confirm its availability. Lastly, you have to make sure that you have all of your AV needs, because if you're going to be in a space with a large number of people, you want to make sure that your microphones are working, to make sure that you'll have access to computer type items so you can plug in to do a presentation. There has to be parking. That's something that you need to take into account as well, especially if you are having a venue that's not in a city center. After that, another really important item would be to identify and recruit partners. Now, where this comes in really handy is when we're talking about sponsorships, speakers, and volunteers. Of course, the sponsorships, hopefully, you're able to get some good sponsors that are willing to donate monetarily to your event. And the money that they donate can be put towards the rental of the venue. It can be put towards getting swag or setting up marketing material. It can be put towards meals, basically anything. And then it's good for the sponsors as well, because there could also be a component where you can basically showcase them by a logo or even with speakers. So if there's a topic that's specific at your event, you could hopefully have them provide some speakers as well for your event. And then lastly, just volunteers. If you're able to get some volunteers, the more hands, the better for putting on any type of in-person event. And what's really good too about identifying and recruiting these partners is that these are relationships that you could actually use later on for any of your other programming. So when we had our event, we were able to partner with the PEO, and that's been a relationship that we've been able to kind of foster and use going forward. Next item would be to develop your actual event program. So this is very important. You need to figure out your agenda. You have to determine what your keynotes are going to be, your panels, your activities, when certain things are going to take place within your agenda. You're obviously going to confirm your speaker and facilitators of the event. And then you have to prepare all of your materials and then the hands-on. Next step, which is the most important, the worst thing you want to do is put in all of this effort to put on a great, fantastic event, and nobody comes because you haven't done any marketing or promotions. So you need to make sure that you create all of your promotional materials, such as your posters and your social media posts. Make sure, well, for us at least, we were able to leverage all of our BEC members for a broader reach. So when we did our marketing materials, we sent an e-blast out to all of the members of BEC, and we requested that they all made sure to promote the event on their socials, their LinkedIn profiles, through WhatsApp, maybe through some groups that they have, through Instagram. Basically, anywhere where they had a touch point and they were able to reach out to people, we had requested that they do some marketing and promotion for us for the event. And then lastly, we have our logistics and the operations. So you have to make sure that you figured out your catering, your signage, how is the registration sign up going to work. You're going to definitely confirm all of your AV equipment, and then you're going to prepare contingency plans in case something goes wrong. So we all know sometimes with presentations, the equipment doesn't work, your slideshow doesn't work, you can't connect to it. You might have handouts for your slideshow presentations. So it's important for you to do that kind of risk analysis in your head and try to figure out ways to have a backup in case things don't go as planned. Next slide, please. So now, let's say that you've done everything perfectly, everything's perfect, working fine. You did fantastic with your marketing, logistics are good. Now we're on to the actual event day. So you should show up about 1 to 2 hours before, which is what we did. And at that time, we just made sure that all of our speakers were in, everybody was comfortable, everybody knew where they were supposed to sit. We had our registration table set up. We did all of the signage, all of the swag, everything was out. And then during the event, we did our opening remarks. We set up our actual speed mentoring sessions and then set up our networking sessions. We ensured that we did collect all of the attendee feedback, and then we just wrapped up the event. So next slide, please. So in terms of post-event activities, I think this is actually probably one of the most important steps because it offers you an opportunity to see where you could actually do better on the event. So for us, we did do a kind of a just a session where we just talked about lessons learned where we could have had some improvements. Um, you also want to make sure that you're sending out thank you messages to your partners and your speakers, should you want to reach out to them in the future for other events. And prepare a summary report that you could give out to your wider organization. And then lastly, I'd say share photos and highlights on socials because what you really want to do is make sure that you are getting that excitement so that people will come out to your next event. Next slide. And I won't go over all of this, but really, I think the most important thing that we found with having the in-person event was that it was something that people were really asking for. I mean, virtual events, they're okay, but at some point or another, it is important to have that actual one-on-one in-person touch point. So if nothing else, it really was a way for us to build those stronger relationships. And hopefully it would lead to higher engagement and better focus later on. And then also just a greater sense of community. I mean, there is something about having an event with people like-minded, same type of career path. So those would be the benefits of having an in-person event. So I think that's my last slide. Yep, thank you.
Hello, everyone. Trying to get my camera going here. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, I'm having a slide issue here. Well, anyways, I'll just start. For whatever reason, my camera's not turning on, so I apologize for that. But my name is Matt Weisenfeld. I am the Director of Marketing and Membership at OSPI. We represent approximately 10,000 professional engineers, engineering students, and engineering graduates, across the province. And our role in National Engineering Month is quite simple. We want to make sure that people understand, quote unquote, the magic of engineering, the people who do the work that keeps the hot water hot, keeps the trains running on time, helps us build and grow and keep our community safe. And I'm just gonna, similar to some of the other, speakers earlier today, I'm just gonna run through some of the things that we want people to be thinking about as they go through their National Engineering Month planning. Should we go to my next slide here? So yeah, really again, we want to be at OSPI, we are the voice of the engineering community here in Ontario. We want to make sure people appreciate the amazing work that engineers do. We want to, support communities in terms of making it more well known, the contributions that engineers are making to society. And really what we want to do is, at a high level, make sure that all of our communities are aligned and supportive and thinking about, even if it's only just for the 30 days of national, or I guess maybe 31 days of National Engineering Month, beginning with PEng Day on March the 1st, that, this is a time to celebrate the contributions made by engineers across our communities. My slide advance is not working. Great, thank you for that. And again, so what can OSPI do to help local organizers of National Engineering Month events? At a high level, we just want to be able to amplify the work that's going on. So, we look at National Engineering Month as a special opportunity. Events can come in any size or scale. They can be in a classroom, they can be in a community center, they can be outside, if that makes sense. Really what we want to be able to do is understand what's going on in the community, to be able to highlight initiatives so they can be celebrated, and where we can increase participation, we'd be happy to do so. And to again use our framework, our social media platforms, our ability to communicate with all of our 10,000 members and beyond that, to try and encourage participation at National Engineering Month events, whatever they happen to look like. Okay, so what constitutes, a NEM event? And again, we don't want to overly influence what engineering looks like to the individual or to the group that's putting on an event. What we do know from past experiences, what has been and can be successful, certainly, the idea of a workshop or a fair where people get a chance to participate and ask questions. We certainly know that bringing in a subject matter expert, a guest speaker, to talk about a particular topic, whether that's something that's really, really prescient to that community where it's operating in, or maybe just, is available or sort of amenable or interesting to the community at large, can work too. Activities are always a great way to remind people that they may be, doing engineering work or having an engineering thought, whether they, considered it at that level or not, especially for students or young people. And again, we're always trying to figure out the community impact of what engineering is. So being able to attach, real world discussion, real world activities to the kinds of things that we see every day is really how engineering comes to life for so many people. I think lots of people, they may not realize, the way that they touch it on an everyday basis, or maybe not even realize that friends and neighbors are engineers. Oh, next slide, please. Thank you. Again, event success, a lot of it is, using, some of the things, the principles that people have talked about before. The number one thing I want to emphasize on this slide are the two middle points, which are, use inclusive, non-technical language where possible. Obviously, engineers at its highest, most professional level are doing very, very technical work. It can be very intellectually challenging. However, if we want more people to appreciate and to understand what this work does, what its impact is, we want to use as plain language as possible. That doesn't mean dumbing it down. It just means giving people a chance to catch up, not assuming a high level of understanding or discourse before you dive into what might be a technical topic. And again, the other piece that really brings things to life is highlighting what are the outcomes of the engineering that happen. So, there are lots of things happening. I'm giving this presentation here from the city of Toronto. There is amazing infrastructure renewal happening across the city. What does it mean? It means that there are shovels in the ground and and crazy traffic and things that we wish, sometimes weren't happening because they're slowing our everydays down. But we want people to appreciate that none of those things happen without an intention in mind. It is all about advancing our community, making our community ready to grow for for the rest of the 21st century, creating opportunities for engineers to use the skills that they've developed in engineering school, and in some cases, even beyond that. So really those 2 points about keeping it inclusive and really tying things back to the outcomes of engineering really help people understand what engineering is on a day-to-day basis. Next slide, please. Again, in terms of a call to action, what we're looking for is as much participation as possible. A NEM event can be a success, even if it's only with 20 people in a small community, or it can be something that's more inclusive and has a virtual audience of thousands. Really, it's all about, how do you impart the message that you want to your audience. So we don't see that as being, small or large, as being, one more successful than others. We just want people to come up with an idea, collaborate where that makes sense, leverage the platforms that you can to make, have as much reach and impact as possible. And again, that notion of opening doors locally, provincially, nationally, it really does, have that impact piece in mind. It's one thing to say here are these people in our community and they're trained and they're keeping people safe. The more important thing is what would we do without them? If we didn't have the engineers that we had within our community, how would our communities be different? Painting those pictures can really be an impactful way to get people to appreciate our engineering community throughout National Engineering Month. So again, it's getting close to the end of my presentation. Is as you're going through and planning your event, we do have some resources available at our nemontario.ca website. The number one thing I would suggest is, it's an easy one to do, hashtag NEM 2026, is use that where possible. Use that when you're promoting an event, use that in pictures when you're celebrating your event afterwards. There are things you can get on the National NEM calendar that Engineers Canada produces or has access to do. You can download PowerPoint templates and other resources, social media imaging if you need help with that. But really, we don't have a right size fits all. We just want to make sure that people are connecting their engineering activities, their awareness activities to the NEM 2026 brand.
Thanks so much, Matt. And thank you
you.
so much to all of our wonderful speakers today. We hope that everyone has, learned something new about what to consider when it comes to planning a National Engineering Month event. And now for a very brief question and answer segment. So I'm first going to address a couple of questions that have come in through the chat. One of them, which is about a recording for this webinar. Yes, this webinar is being recorded, and we will ensure to share the recording with you once available to everyone that's attending. And the recording will also be on the Engineers Canada website as well for view after today. There's another question about if there's any events happening in Cape Breton and where to find events. So I will actually ask my colleague to put a link to the National Engineering Month calendar in the chat. There you will be able to see what events are happening across the country at any point in time. And of course, we invite folks to also, submit events. We want to hear all about the events that you're hosting, wherever it is in the country, whether it's a virtual event or an in-person event. We'll be looking forward to hearing about those. And we also do spotlight events in our national calendar as well. And I don't see any other questions in the chat, but perhaps I'll pose this question to the group. And this one's more around success when it comes to hosting a NEM event. So every speaker here has been able to host at least one successful NEM event in the past. What does success look like beyond attendees? So what other ways do you measure if an event has been successful? And I'll just open the floor here.
I guess everybody doesn't mind, I'll go first.
Go ahead.
For me, I think the measure of success would be the connections that you make following the event. I know that following that event that we did at BAC, I probably have met about 7 or 8 new mentees, which it can be hard to manage at times, but it speaks to how beneficial the event was. I mean, there were a lot of takeaways that they were able to kind of take in following the event, and it's nice to see that they reach out to you just to ask just some general questions about anything. It's not always just focused on can you help me find a job? Sometimes it could be just an issue that they have at work and they're trying to figure out, how exactly do they navigate. So I think for me, the benefits when I know it's successful would be just those connections that you're able to make following that event.
Such great points, Nordia. That point of community is certainly very, very important, and it's great to see how these events, foster a greater connection across the public. Chris, go ahead.
I'll unmute myself there. Yeah, I kind of want, I'll answer that one, and I also want to collect another question in my answer that I saw in the Q&A as well. So there was a question in there about whether or not it's common to host events for members, or is it mainly geared toward students? So in our experience, it's been a good mix of both. But I think really what makes an event successful for me, I have two, and I'll try to be brief on explaining them, two examples of events that we've run in the past that have actually, encouraged people to take engineering up as a career path. So example one, the egg drop, which we went over very briefly or mentioned briefly in passing in our slide deck, is an event that we used to run in junior high schools where we encourage people to, or encourage the students in, I think it's grade 9 focus, to design and then buy materials for and build a device that will save an egg that will be dropped from 10 feet. So this touches on a lot of the aspects of engineering, from design, budget-mindedness, and then of course presenting their contraption at the end to their classmates saying, this is why I think my device will save the egg. And I highlight that when we're about to test all the eggs. I say, well, look, these skills that you use today, whether you believe it or not, these are all engineering skills. These are basic engineering skills that people have to bring to each one of their projects. And by highlighting that and underscoring that, these skills, if you're working on this project and really enjoy it, these are engineering skills. And to think about engineering as a career path, one of the students in one of the grade 9 classes that I did an egg drop competition with, actually, so she was in grade 9 at the time, the student. She ended up going to university, studying engineering, and is now working as a professional engineer alongside my wife, also an employee at the city now. So it just goes to show you that some of these events that we're running, you never really know if they're making an impact. But I know for sure that we definitely encouraged one student to pursue a path, and I'm sure that's not unique. That's just one that I'm aware of. And a very similar thing briefly about, talking to some of the undergraduate students, because we do that as well. We encourage engineers and EITs to participate in the Pi Day, basically pizza and chat with the undergrads. And this is just an opportunity for professionals to talk to students about what our actual experiences are working as professionals in the field. Because that can vary a lot, or that can be a lot different than obviously your university life. So they get to ask us what it's really like, and we get to tell them what it's really like. The profs don't really say too much about that. They let us actually have really open and casual and candid conversations about our experiences. I was speaking with somebody about my experience working in the public sector, and what ended up transpiring is one of the students I was talking to ended up finishing her degree and is now working in the public sector in my very department just down the hall from me. So these interactions that we have as professionals with school-aged K-12 students, as well as undergraduate students, are very important to shaping, one, who sees themselves as possibly an engineer and taking engineering as a career path, and two, making decisions about what type of engineer they want to be when they're done, right? Because sometimes people know enough to say, I want to be an engineer, but they don't know what type. So taking a moment as a professional to participate in these opportunities can help shape engineering, the future of engineering. And it's also something that you can find very satisfying as a professional to know that you're, shaping people's career paths and that kind of thing.
Thanks
I
so
have
much,
a
Chris.
slightly different way of thinking about it. I thought I'd just share. And I think everyone's making such amazing points. Like this is all just gold. So soak it all up. But I think that the measure of success is you thinking about what success looks like and then measuring yourself against it. If we knew what the right metric was or what the right activity was, like we wouldn't be here today, probably. So just you thinking about it up front and intentionally, and then measuring yourself about against how successful your event was, and then improving the next year and the next year, I think is a really cool way to think about it.
Thanks so much for sharing, Rebecca. In the interest of time, we're just gonna wrap it up here, but definitely happy to continue these conversations offline. I'd like to thank all of our wonderful speakers for participating today and sharing such amazing insights on how to plan a National Engineering Month event. I will encourage folks on the call to sign up for our kickoff event, our NEM kickoff event happening early in March. There will be a link to that event in the chat. And of course, like I said before, we want to hear all about the events that you're hosting across the country. So feel free to take advantage of our NEM calendar, submit event through that portal, and we'll be more than happy to spotlight the event across the country through our national event calendar. Thanks so much to everyone, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. If you have any questions at all, feel free to reach out to us at Engineers Canada. Thanks, everyone.